The rain came down like grief, sudden, unrelenting, and cold. Brandon Wolf leaned back against the cool leather of his Maybach seat, glancing at the lines of code and profit graphs on the glowing tablet in his hand. The city lights flashed like Morse code against the window, blurring through the heavy downpour. He didn't look up. He rarely did. His empire needed constant tending, and he had taught himself to thrive in detachment. Emotion was not part of his business model. They were cruising through Ashland Avenue, the kind of street that once might have bothered him, a part of the city that still smelled like struggle and wet pavement. His driver, Anthony, had said something earlier about a shortcut, and Brandon hadn't argued. What did it matter? It was just another ride home to a penthouse that echoed too loudly with success. Then the car braked hard. Brandon's eyes snapped up as his tablet slid across the seat. What happened? There's something, Anthony said, peering through the windshield. Someone in the road. Brandon followed his gaze. A woman stumbled from the alleyway and into the dim streetlight. She was young, maybe late 20s, her coat torn and soaked through. Blood painted a dark streak down her forehead. She clutched her stomach, limping, one shoe missing. And behind her, chaos. A man was shouting, dragging a small child, a toddler no older than 2, by the arm toward a black SUV. The boy screamed, tiny fists flailing. The SUV door slammed. The vehicle peeled off, tires hissing on wet asphalt. The woman tried to run after it but crumpled onto the sidewalk instead. Brandon's heart thudded once, hard. Then again. Against every impulse, he reached for the door handle. Sir, I don't think. Stop the car. Now. Rain assaulted his face the moment he stepped outside. His shoes sank into a puddle, the cold soaking into his socks. He didn't care. The woman lay on the ground, trembling. Her hands, scraped and bleeding, clawed at the concrete. My baby, she sobbed. He took my baby. Brandon knelt beside her. He didn't know why. He only knew it felt like something he had to do. She looked up, and their eyes met. Hers were wide and dark and full of terror. I'm going to help you, he said. She didn't answer, just let her eyes roll shut as her body gave out. She collapsed into his arms. She woke in silk sheets. At first, she panicked. The room was too clean, too bright. The air too still. She sat up, gasping. Where am I? A calm voice replied from a chair near the window. You're safe. No one's going to hurt you. She turned to face him. The man from the street. He wore a simple gray sweater now, his hair slightly damp, like he'd been pacing. My baby, she whispered. Where is he? Did you see them take him? He nodded once. I saw. Tears formed instantly. He has him. He's going to keep him. He'll disappear us both. Like he promised. Brandon tilted his head slightly. Do you want a lawyer or coffee first? That startled her. She looked up. My name's Lila Harper, she said eventually, her voice shaky. I used to be a piano teacher. Then I married a monster. Brandon didn't speak, waiting. Troy Mason, she said bitterly. He looks respectable, right? Clean shaven, good suits, big smile. But he's not. He's not. She stared at her hands. He hit me. For years. Made me think it was my fault. When I got pregnant, he changed. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe I just couldn't ignore it anymore. Brandon's jaw tightened. He filed for full custody after our divorce, she said, swallowing. Had judges in his pocket. Took Oliver last week and said I'd never see him again. Her shoulders shook. Tonight I tried to get him back. I knew it was stupid. I followed one of his security guards to the drop point. I thought, if I could just grab Oliver and run. She closed her eyes. I couldn't. I failed him. Brandon stood and walked to the window, staring out at the skyline. You didn't fail him. You were outmatched. That's not the same thing. She looked at him. Why are you helping me? He turned back to her. Because no one helped my mother. The next morning, Brandon's legal team got to work. Brandon himself barely slept, poring over surveillance footage, financial records, and court transcripts. Troy Mason was everything Lila said, and worse. The man had offshore accounts, paid off officials, and a reputation for making inconvenient people vanish quietly. Domestic abuse complaints had been buried under payoffs. His custody win had been engineered by threats and bribes. But what caught Brandon's eye was the property. Troy's estate in Rivermont Hills. That house. The place where Lila had once lived and where Oliver had spent his early years. Brandon bought it in a cash deal by the end of the second day. He didn't tell Lila right away. Instead, he started by cleaning her wounds. Literally and figuratively. He restored her bank accounts. Had her teaching license reinstated. Hired a therapist. She was angry at first, unsure if she could trust him, but slowly, she began to sit a little straighter. Speak more boldly. She started sleeping through the night. But the pain wasn't gone. Not until Oliver was back. That would take more than kindness. Brandon staged it like a chess game. He had one of his people reach out to Troy posing as an investor interested in a major acquisition. The bait was simple, a lucrative business merger that would require Troy to return to the Rivermont estate to walk the property. Meanwhile, Brandon brought Lila to the house. It had been stripped bare, no more marble statues or cold decor. Just sunlight and warm tones and space. Lila stood in the grand foyer and trembled. I used to cry on these stairs, she whispered. He pushed me once. I was pregnant. I bled for a week. Brandon didn't speak. He just placed a hand on her shoulder. Why did you buy it? She asked. Because I'm going to rewrite every memory you have here, he said. She took a breath and stepped further inside. Then the trap was set. Troy arrived looking smug in a tailored navy suit. He strode into the home like he owned the world, and stopped cold when he saw Lila descending the stairs. You, he sneered. You're trespassing. No, Brandon said, emerging from the kitchen. You are. Troy turned, rage flickering. Wolf, what the hell is this? This house belongs to me, Brandon said. And soon, so will every business you've laundered money through. Troy moved to storm out. The front door burst open. Federal agents poured in, led by a stern-faced woman holding a stack of warrants. Another lawyer stepped forward with a custody reversal order. Mr. Mason, you're being charged with child endangerment, abuse, fraud, and obstruction of justice. You are under arrest. The look on Troy's face was better than $1 billion deal. Oliver was returned to Lila that night. He was scared at first, but when he saw her, he screamed, "Mommy!" and ran straight into her arms. Lila held him, sobbing, rocking him like a song. Brandon stood back, watching. He hadn't cried in 20 years. That night, Lila found him on the balcony. She wrapped a blanket around his shoulders and leaned beside him. You did something no one's ever done for me. He shook his head. You did it. I just opened the door. You never talk about your family, she said. There's nothing to say, Brandon replied. My mom raised me alone. We lived in a car sometimes. No one cared. She died before I made it out. No one noticed. That's why I work so hard. I build. I win. So no one forgets me. She turned toward him. I won't forget you. A month passed. The house was transformed into a music school, Lila's idea. A space for kids, single mothers, trauma survivors. Brandon funded it completely. Oliver laughed again. He drew pictures of monsters and knights. Brandon's favorite hung on the fridge. It showed 3 stick figures, a boy, a woman with long hair, and a tall man in glasses. One evening, after tucking Oliver in, Lila came to Brandon on the couch. She sat beside him. He didn't look at her. You don't smile much, she said. Some people weren't made for happy endings. Maybe you weren't, until now. She kissed him, gently, carefully, like someone putting their faith in something fragile. They never married. They didn't have to. Some things didn't need a label. Just a hand to hold. A child to protect. And a home filled with love, not pain. The house he shouldn't have owned became something more, the first place Brandon Wolf ever felt like he belonged. And finally, he smiled.